This is Counselcast, part of the Legal Talk Network, and I'm your host, Karin Conroy. When you face a complex case outside your expertise, you bring in a co-counsel for next-level results. When you want to engage, expand, and elevate your firm, you bring in a marketing co-counsel. In this podcast, I bring in marketing experts who each answer one big question to help your firm achieve more. Here's today's guest.
The founder of Profitalize, a lover of steak, and a lover of talking about good business, how to grow your business, and anything mindset, entrepreneurship, you name it.
Awesome. I like that you led with steak and then business second. Like we all have to have our priorities.
Steak is first above all else. I just bought a quarter cow. I'm ready for it.
Nice. So you really are really serious about that. So that sounds like you put a lot of thought into that. It's not just like a random steak on a Tuesday night.
No. I'm trying to eat carnivore along with pizza, of course. But I try to eat carnivore when I dedicate myself in business. I do the same with my diet most of the time.
Nice. Awesome. All right. Well, we are not here to talk about steak necessarily. I mean, we could, I'm sure, find a way to tie that back in. But thanks for being here today, John. We are going to talk a lot, and I know on your website it's a lot about profit and growth and all of that stuff. But we're going to focus in on speed and how fast things can happen. And then we're going to start more specifically with speed related to websites. Mm-hmm. So the title that ChatGPT helped me come up with for today's show is The Need for Speed, Website Performance, and Rapid Growth. I felt like, oh, that's perfect.
That's perfect. That's perfect.
Brings it all together.
Right.
I love ChatGPT.
It makes things so much easier.
Seriously, I wouldn't have come up with that by myself, but I'm taking all the credit.
I'll take it. Let's go.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, actually, I'm not taking all the credit. I am giving it to ChatGPT, but either way, That's what we're going to talk about today. So let's first start with speed. Let's start with the basic speed related to your website. Like, why does that matter?
First of all, it's because it's just like when you're working with a customer in person or anyone over the phone. Imagine if we had like a 10-second delay between talking back and forth. People have to realize...
that's such a good example.
Right. It's like the perfect analogy of this is what's happening with your customers, with your leads, with prospects, people who are wanting to work with you when they go to the website, when they go to book a call with you, when they go to you name it. There's a lag, just like that. And it makes them leave the website.
Gosh, that made me panic for a second because I was looking around. I was like, is there something happening with the podcast?
Is it right now?
Yeah, exactly. That's such a perfect example.
Yeah, and that right there is the panic people go through. And it's the same like getting bad. It's almost like getting bad at support service too. You call someone and it's really hard to talk to them. They don't know what they're talking about. They can't direct you to the right place. It's customer service done right, and it increases when you can optimize for speed. It means more people who are going to be calling, more people who are going to be booking a call with you, more people who are going to be more interested in your name, your brand, whatever you have for a business. Because as well, there's something that goes into brand perception. When, for example, I do a lot of affiliate marketing, and when a company does a launch, and I can't look at their promotional materials, I can't look at their website and that stuff, I go, well, there goes my interest.
Along.
Right, and there goes tens of thousands of dollars in the next week I could make for them because their stuff's slow.
Yeah. Yes. I feel like that's super important that you led with this idea of it being this customer experience, because the first thing you usually hear when people talk about speed is the tech side of it. Like what makes things fast, all the technology, and that sort of is, if you're not a tech-focused person, that's a little overwhelming. Right. And it it makes you feel like, oh my gosh, there's all this stuff I need to learn technology-wise. And that's not what we're saying at all. We're saying this is part of your customer experience. You need to get it right. You don't necessarily need to know the details of it, but it needs to be right. Yeah.
And again, it's all business. When you look at, to me, from the right perspective, all leads back to the customer, what they need, what they want, what's going to be the best for them. And I mean, we could go into, for example, like there are better domain hosting services you can get, and that's great.
Yes.
There are some things you can do to your website to minimize load times through reducing image size, reducing video size, CSS file size, a few things alongside with that. And
But here's the thing, the bottom line there is that that's stuff you and I need to worry about. That's not necessarily stuff that a law firm on a daily basis needs to worry about. That's stuff that they need to know is working right and is smooth and fast. And it is getting technical. So this is something you need to rely on someone who knows how to do this.
Yes. Hire someone, whether it's an agency, a VA, someone who's knowledgeable. Yeah. Because I agree, it's also saving your time by hiring out this duty, because if you're not specialized in it, you're going to make mistakes, you're going to break something. I've had many different clients we talked to before working on things with domains, a bunch of where the website directs to, and there's so much more to it. If you don't know what you're doing,
messy.
Yeah, it gets really messy really fast, and you can break stuff in 2 seconds. And let's not do that.
And it's a major break. This isn't just like a minor thing, because keep in mind, your domain name is also your email address. So if that gets broken, all of a sudden now you're not getting emails. And I know that lights a fire of panic in every attorney thinking about how their emails might not work someday.
Oh, I have no one reaching out to me. What's going on?
Yeah, oh my gosh, I just sent some legal document to a place and I don't know if it went through or if it bounced and it made, all of that stuff. So tell me some red flags in terms of speed and kind of performance that a typical lawyer/law firm should kind of be aware of in terms of all of a sudden XYZ is happening on your website. And then, more specifically, how does an agency, I guess we don't even need to know how the agency responds to that, but what should a law firm be paying attention to and be worried if something is happening?
The best thing that I would recommend for any law firm to do is to make sure that whoever they hire to be in charge of this, they make sure they have their website on a dedicated server.
Yeah.
Only because with a dedicated server, unless you're having tens of thousands of people hit your website every hour, it ensures at a basic level, basically your site will never go down. Your site isn't dependent on other sites, the traffic they get, because the vast majority of people who are listening, to put it simply, most servers, most of the times when you have your website up, it's on a server with many other websites. And it has drastically affected your website load time based upon the traffic other sites are getting. Many other things can happen. So you want to make sure you have a dedicated server. That's the biggest thing, because you're not gonna generate that much traffic. If you're going to generate that much traffic, you're going to have a really, really, really big law firm. I mean, it's got to be humongous.
Yeah, or you're doing law for celebrities, where you're getting major, you're getting news organizations and people searching for you at that kind of a level. The other thing I was going to add in terms of why you need a dedicated server, and this goes back to my history. I've been doing this for a bajillion years. Back in the day, first of all, I was using GoDaddy, which is a giant mistake.
I didn't want to say names. I was going to say, if you're using GoDaddy, oof, you are in rough shape.
You are, and I think it's okay, because honestly, it's sort of I was going to think of an example, but I don't have a good example of just the sort of the garbage option. But so back in the day, I started with GoDaddy. Everybody makes these mistakes, but don't make this mistake. There's a million other options that are better and cheaper. And it was all shared servers way back in the day. And not only for performance, so if you're on that shared server and you're sharing that server with, let's say, somewhere like Target, where Target's getting, hundreds of thousands a hit, this doesn't actually happen in real life, because Target, of course, has their own thing. But let's just, make this hypothetical. But also, let's say you share your server with somewhere that gets hit with malware or hacked.
Bot attacks of fake traffic. There's all types of things.
Yeah, and I saw that happen so many times, where they would get into one site and then all of a sudden every site that's on that server is hacked, and they were doing everything right, and it was just a giant mess.
Another important thing too as well is security into this, especially if these are law firms and lawyers. You have your clients' data on these servers, and if you have really weak, really basic hosting, and you're not on a dedicated server, your security level is way less quality, and that means you're going to be a lot more open to hacks, a lot more open to people hacking into your server, taking over server, taking your data files, because that's all the server really is hosting data files, which includes all of your emails, includes all of your clients' emails, includes all of their private information, tons of stuff you don't want public.
Exactly. Okay, so coming back to speed, website design, all of that stuff, let's talk more. So that's kind of the technical side. There's all these reasons why you want it to be fast, you want to be aware of it, you want to be kind of watching out for any kind of issues. But then in terms of how a potential person or client might work through a website. So let's talk about how we can just move a user through a website faster. So not the kind of functioning of the website, but more like the user interface and the design and the messaging to make that conversion happen faster.
I think one of the biggest things that you can do is reducing form fields. So when people go to give you their information,
oh my gosh.
It's huge. You usually go, well, I need to know absolutely everything about their case, about what they have going on, what's their situation, how old are they, what blood type is their kid. You start going into way too much information.
Yeah.
The two reasons why it's unnecessary is, one, you probably don't need all this information, at least initially. You can find that out on a call. And as well, they don't want to give you that much information. So reducing form fields to the least amount you actually need, it's huge for making sure that as many people are visiting your website, visiting any processes you have for generating leads. A lot more of them are going to be actually completing those forms, booking calls with you, you name it. And along with that, real quickly as well, I suggest reducing the number of steps it takes to actually book a call, to submit the form, to do whatever action you want them to take to learn more about you, your services, you name it. Reduce that. So some people have, they'll have their website, general homepage. They click on a button that brings them to another page that tells them more about, the services you offer, that brings them to no.
Yeah.
One click that goes directly to the form. Once they fill out the form, here's a thank you page going through how we're going to contact you, etc. Simplify the process and simplify the form itself is the biggest things you can do to reduce the time people are on your site to actually get to where they need to go, to take the actions you want them to take.
Yeah, I feel like there's this desperate need to tell everyone every single thing that they might possibly ever need to know. And think about how that feels if you're on a car lot trying to buy a car and you've got this car salesman and he's trying to tell you about the pistons and how much tire pressure the tire has and like every single detail about the engine. And it's like, listen, I don't care about that. I will tell you the top 3 things that I care about when it comes to this car. And you are just filling the air with way too much data.
Too much.
And and if they want to know those things, they will be somewhere on your site and you will have them so they can go and find that. But don't put them in the way in between you and like them taking action.
Yes, and that's where I also suggest in any messaging, you want to make sure you are only focusing on the 2 to 3 main pleasure points or pain points of your possible clients. Because like you're saying, you overload too much. I'm going to tell you about the pistons, the tires, the tire pressure, the oil it takes. I want to know the price. I want to know if it's a V6 or a V8 in most cases. I want to know if it's the brand I like. That's really and how many miles, So pick 2 to 3 things that are most important to your possible clients. The 2 biggest objections, try to cover those. The 2 biggest pleasure points, pain points. Focus in, hone your messaging, most of it onto that. You can have one section lower on your site that mentions more, but focus. And that focus, again, you're reducing what they have to read through as well, which keeps their interest longer, makes them want to take the action sooner, book more calls faster, you name it.
Yeah, there is a book that I mention quite often that Seth Godin came out with years ago, way like back when websites were still HTML, called The Purple Fez. And the whole idea, this is sort of like going deep into the archives because nobody quotes this one except me. But the whole idea, and maybe this is why, because it's a little bit insulting to your visitors, but is to assume that all of your website visitors are monkeys and that you give them one banana on every page. One banana. You don't want to give them 14 different bananas because you can't control that. You can't tell them, here's 14 different bananas and like have fun. Plus, you get decision fatigue and people don't know which way to go. So there should be one main primary call to action.
That's throughout. Yeah, and 100% right. Again, you got to think about, especially in today's time, how easily we are distracted. How much we're scrolling through TikTok way too damn much. How much we're busy with our personal lives, our health, you name it. Our attention spans and our focus can only be directed to so much at once. And that's something that Russell Brunson also says, but Seth Godin is also a GOAT, a respect for him.
Yeah.
Like, same thing like you bring people through an actual sales process. So the actual process from seeing your ad, seeing a banner, seeing hearing about you to your website, to booking a call. You want it as simple as possible. You want one call to action, one thing for them to do across each process, because otherwise, it's distracting. And the problem is as well.
And they don't have the patience for that either.
No.
The one thing I will add is he does say that you can have a secondary call to action, but you need to be very clear about it.
Right.
So this is the example I use quite often also. Let's say you're a divorce attorney.
Mm-hmm.
Oftentimes, the people landing on your site don't necessarily, they're doing a little bit of kind of research, and they may not need your services for another 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
So in those cases, they don't want to take action right now. They don't want that primary call to action, but you need to offer them something to keep them engaged and whatever.
Right.
So in those cases, it's often going to be your blog or maybe your bio page. And they would just kind of want to know more about you, maybe more about your team. But oftentimes they want to have some data. And so they go over to your blog and read a couple articles. If you can get them subscribed to a newsletter, so much better, because then you can capture that email. So that's the goal there, is if that's the secondary call to action, is to bring them over to the blog, the goal is to get their email address so that you can continuously remind them and stay top of mind. The secondary call to action design-wise and functioning needs to have less weight, have less impact, all of those things. So it should be a text-only button, maybe with like a line around it, and it should not be the first thing that your eye is attracted to.
Have the main focus on what you want to do is to book a call with you, go through the process, become a customer. And I entirely agree, is you're dealing with people who are either A, wanting to work with you now, or who will want to work with you later. And if they're ones who want to work with you later, you need some kind of way to follow up, build a relationship with them over time, build trust with them over time, direct them to your blog, any videos you create, any social media presences, any cases you win, you name it. So entirely agree, customer first, then somewhere lower on the page elsewhere, hey, here's where you can actually learn more about how we work, what we do, etc.
And these people are coming into your site and they know exactly where they sit, whether they are ready to take action or not. They are coming to your site knowing fully, like you don't have to tell them, maybe you might want to contact me in 6 months. They already know. They already know I'm either ready or not ready right now. So you don't have to explain that. You just make it really obvious. Like I see that big red button, but I'm not ready for that now. And so next to it is a smaller, some other less impact color button, and that's the thing I'm looking for. I'm looking for the secondary thing, and I, as the visitor, may also want you to keep in touch with me so that you can remind me later.
Right.
So they're looking for those things that are sort of this obvious and common thing to be found on a website.
It's almost like self-filtering. They're self-filtering themselves when they come to websites, and I 100% agree.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about this in terms of profitability and speed and expediting profit in terms of like growth and all that stuff. How do we, so we've got people moving through the website faster. We also have the website functioning faster. How do we then make more profit faster?
Number one thing is name of the game, and that is leads. Lead quality and lead quantity. So whether you're doing some kind of organic marketing, you're paying for lead gen through an agency or some kind of consultant, you name it, you need to make sure that lead gen is the primary activity everyone, like that's what needs to be done either by you or someone in the organization or someone you're hiring, hands down. And also, again, quality is the biggest factor, because in the lead generation industry that I know of, without quality, the vast majority of what's being spent on ads and leads is completely wasted.
Yes.
So one is quality has to be first. You want to filter out the clients, the ones that waste your time, the ones that take up too much of your time, the ones that hem and haw, the ones that aren't sure themselves. Make sure those are as filtered out as possible, and only work with the ones that you can make the most money from, you can help the most, you can work with the easiest, that primo design client. And also, secondly, when you're generating leads, you need to follow up with them impeccably, because building that relationship, regardless of who the lead is, if someone else, a competing lawyer, competing firm, can build that relationship deeper and faster than you can, you're going to lose them every single time.
Yeah. two things I just wanted to add there. The quality, I can't tell you the number of conversations that I've had with attorneys who have some kind of Google AdWords campaign going on, and they're like, let's say they're a DUI attorney, and they're like, I get all these inquiries, and they're not even in our practice area. They were asking me if I do divorce and whatever, and it's like, okay, well, that's a red flag.
Yep.
So let's just focus in on making sure that your ads are getting the right people.
Right.
Like, right there is going to save you a ton of money. Like, there's waste there.
Yeah, because there's a difference between generating a lot of leads, a lot of traffic, and a little bit of traffic that actually converts and actually buys and books calls. Yeah. So what controls that is two things. One is the messaging they're seeing.
Yeah.
The messaging you're seeing is extremely, extremely important. Of course, the targeting, but actually almost more so the messaging you're seeing, because, again, when you or someone you're hiring is usually trying to do some kind of form of paid lead gen or even organic marketing to bring in leads, you usually think, I want everyone possible, and you do not.
Yes.
You want, again, only a select few who are actually willing to work with you. Because I'd much rather generate 3 leads a week and 2 of them want to work with me soon than 100 leads a week and maybe 5 of them, because it means the first one, you can scale that a lot easier than the second one, because what you're doing here is really not converting and broken already. So fine tune, or have someone you're working with, get them to fine tune the messaging, make sure you're targeting only the right people, and following up is going to help a lot too.
Well, that was what I was just I was gonna follow up there for a moment about your second point was about the quality of your follow-up and your kind of customer service experience. And once again, I've mentioned this on many shows. There's so many surveys that are saying that the number of law firms that don't even answer the phone or like they have like an old school answering machine, like at the very least, get an answering service. Yeah. There's some really good ones that are specifically for law firms out there, and it's a human person. It's not AI. Right. It's not a Google Voice. It's not a voicemail. You need to have a human answering your phone. This is a business, and this is absolutely going to pay for itself multiple times over, and it should.
That's the issue, is people assume that, well, it's going to cost a lot to have that on staff, or even hire someone on staff, because the amount of money you will make from actually servicing customers better, if it means, especially for like a law firm, if it means 3 more customers a month or 5 more customers a month, I mean, that can be huge money. And
I will plug, I use a service called Ruby, and they're usually for law firms, and that's who that's why I started using them. And not sponsored. This is, I just use them. I think they're amazing. And it's a few $100 a month. We're not talking thousands of dollars. So it is absolutely worth it if you want to be successful. And so this should be part of your process. This should be part of your follow-up. Ruby will also not just take calls, but make outgoing calls. So you can have them follow up on leads and things like that. So you need a process for this. And so if you're taking these calls, you can't just assume that whatever's going to happen, cross your fingers and hope is not a marketing strategy.
Yeah, and also what the best thing is to do is not just follow up with inbound leads, but also old leads that haven't became clients of yours before. That's where usually, from my experience, the biggest amount of profit and revenue growth comes from people who have actually said, no, we don't want to work with you, and people who just have not actually put their hand up to say, yes, I'm interested. All the people who are inactive, who aren't responding, finding a way to engage them, like I said, whether it's through Ruby, whether it's through some other service in some way or another, finding a way to actually engage those people, that's where the vast majority of your clients actually are. And the reason you aren't seeing that right now is because you aren't actually engaging with them.
Yes. Okay, awesome. All right, so we've got your website fast. We've got the conversion process fast. We've got you making profit faster. I think we kind of covered it. So it's time for the book review. Let's move on to the book review.
Let's do it.
So in case you haven't noticed, on the website for the podcast, we have this sweet library where all of the guests come on and they mention a book review. And so you can go in and check out all the book reviews. They're almost always business-related books and related to, hopefully, the topic we're talking about. So, John, what's the book that you wanted to recommend today?
I recommend Unlimited Power by Tony Robbins, or any Tony Robbins book. Now,
why?
Because one, if you take a look at him, his history, the impact on how much he cares, what he writes about, he both practices and he truly means in his research. Now, Unlimited Power, right, is 2 or 3 that are kind of closely related.
Yeah.
The reason behind that one is because as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, as a person in general, your mind and how you think and how you actually think about how you think and how you talk to yourself is the most important part of anything you do in your life, period. I would actually say that is more important than your spouse, than your kids, than anything, is how you deal with yourself up here and think about the issues going on. Think about your spouse, think about your kids, think about all these different things is so impactful. And we rarely, for some reason, as much as we care about others and other things going on, we rarely take the time to actually think about how we can fix these things for ourselves because we're so busy with life.
Yes.
So,
yeah,
I recommend it because we all need it.
I feel like mindset has become such a trendy topic, but it's so critical. And I will say, I've had a lot of people, I have an MBA, and a lot of people ask me, because there's so many different programs out there that say, like, get an MBA in the weekend. You don't need to go back to school and spend all that money. And yes, every class I took, I learned a ton. But so much of going through a program like that is convincing yourself and kind of getting into that mindset. And you come out of it believing more in yourself and believing that you have more value and more to offer. And of course, it's not entirely mindset. That's not the only thing I got out of that program. But without the mindset, nothing else is going to happen.
Yep.
So it's the step one. You have to be in the right headspace for everything else that you want.
I will say that's not generic mindset stuff, because that's also the biggest issue is the generic mindset space is very diluted. It's very, like I said, there's a lot of okay information out there that's really basic that has been created because of the content creation world we're in. But if you want to get to the essence of like how you actually think and dictating and controlling that and being able to pause, and the difference is like normally, for example, let's say in business, I'm going to try to make a partnership. Yeah. And someone initially says no for a really big deal because I'm in the process of launching something that I'm making some pretty big deals. Someone may normally go, well, they said no, screw them. I'm going to go find someone else. Yeah. Through going no, I can still probably turn this into a win. And no doesn't really mean no. How can I still confirm and make this deal happen in some way or another? I think about that. I go back to the table, realign, find another deal. I have this one company I'm trying to partner with right now that I've reached out to, I think 5 or 6 times. They said, nope, we'll do this one thing. I go, no. What if we did this and this? Nope, we did this one thing. Well, let's try this instead. Mindset ties into how you operate in business, how you operate with clients, how you operate with yourself. And it's, when taught properly, it's great.
Yeah, and a lot of it is kind of learning to get outside of like these predefined ideas of limitations that you have inside your own brain that are, based on stuff that happened like in your childhood and stuff. And it's all sort of silly, but you have to kind of recognize it and then push beyond those walls. Mm-hmm. And it does seem like Tony Robbins is the OG for all of this.
He's the OG.
So if there's one person to look to kind of find the best, insight and tips and tricks and all of that stuff, like, you might as well start there.
Yep.
So we will link to that book, obviously, on the page, show page and the show notes and all that stuff, but it'll also be in the library. So that's a good one. Unlimited Power by Tony Robbins. Okay, so, John, what's one big takeaway that you'd like people to get from this episode?
The one takeaway I always have, and that's to treat your business like you really deeply, honestly, ethically care about your customers more than anything else. Because when you lead with that, when you lead with providing as much value, as much very helpful, warm service as possible, you're almost always better off. A big reason why I've been successful in my business and in my life is not because and again, with lawyers, you have a professionality you must keep and you must have. Yeah. There's more to that, but a way I've been able to break past some professionality is because I'm so genuine and warm and myself in the moment. That people want to work with me in some way or another. It's something that I just, if you can combine that with, especially if you're in law, with professionality, with personality, with charisma, with working on yourself, with developing your mindset, fine-tuning the process you have for bringing customers in, communicating with them, with your soul, it works so much better. I can absolutely guarantee, because every interaction I've ever had ends up being positive in some way or another because of it.
Well, and The only thing I can add to that is that I feel like if you get your systems down and you get all of these other things organized in the way that we were talking about, speeding up everything, your process, your performance, all of that stuff, then it allows you, if you have a great system, for example, it allows you to not be buried in the day-to-day tedious things, and your personality can really come out. And so when you're having those conversations, you're not like overwhelmed and stressed and buried. You can just really focus on being a better lawyer or a better whatever you're doing. So it makes it all work better.
It's automizing and systemizing enough. Again, if you don't have the skills, please hire it out. And make sure you hire it out with someone who's good. Don't be afraid of the cost unless it's extraordinary. I always go, at least go to the middle, never go to the lowest. At least go somewhere in the middle for pricing. It frees up you to be the best you can. When you do that, you deliver better for clients. And overall, all of these different things affect branding. I never thought branding was real for a long time.
I know, most people don't. It's kind of like the mindset stuff we were talking about before either. But it really is.
And you will notice it when you start hearing from multiple people, multiple past and current clients, that you're the best to go to, you're the most knowledgeable. And this spreads when your systems, your website, your personality, this across your whole team, your whole company and business, all these things align, it spreads and it does absolutely wonders.
Perfect. Oh my gosh. I feel like that is a high note for us. That is a perfect kind of ending point there. John Weberg is the CEO of Profitalize. Is that right?
Yes.
Profitalize?
Yes.
Okay. I wanted to make sure I was pronouncing it right. Okay. So thank you so much for being here. We will link to all your social links and your website and all of the good stuff. There's so much more in there about kind of optimizing your profits and everything. Obviously today we're just kind of focused on speed and getting everything moving faster, but I feel like we covered everything.
Yeah, I agree.
Kind of got it.
Can I leave with two quotes?
Yes, sure.
These are two quotes of my own that I actually made when I was about 13 years old, so I'm quite proud of them.
Oh, I'm curious.
And one was retweeted by Justin Timberlake's wife, Jessica Biel.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. All right. That was a good setup. All right. What are they?
So the first one is generic but focused on aspire for progress, hunger for success, and strive for greatness, which
that's good.
Has its obvious meaning.
Yes, and that ties in perfectly.
Yes, and then the second one is your attitude is not defined by your life is defined by your attitude, which just...
That's so true.
Yep.
That is so true. Because I do think so many people are waiting for this moment where everything just miraculously comes together, like a unicorn walks through the door and, all of these. And that's not how it works. It's backwards. It works the other way around.
You have to be the unicorn coming through the door.
That's good. That's going to be the next quote that gets retweeted by some famous person.
I hope so. Oh, funny.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much for being here. That was a great episode.
Thank you very much as well. I appreciate you, and everyone have an absolutely amazing day. Make sure you subscribe if you're not already. Make sure you download and share this around, my friends.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Counselcast podcast. Be sure to visit our website at counsel-cast.com for the resources mentioned on the episode and to give us your feedback. If you enjoyed this episode, I would appreciate if you could rate and review the podcast on Apple and subscribe to your favorite podcast platform. See you on the next one.